Welcome back to Younger MMA. So I'm going to dig into an idea that is going to be, I'm going to go over this a lot on this channel because I really want to beat it into people's head. I think it's a really valuable thing to know. So I'm going to start by saying, as a human, you have to accept that consciousness evolves just like everything else evolves. So, you know, the same way that you have to get in the gym to change your body, you need experiences to gain wisdom. So you need life experience to make your consciousness evolve. And some of the things that you may want to do, like there may be things that you want to do well, and sometimes your consciousness is not where it needs to be to do that thing. So say if like you want to be an author but you're having writer's block, yeah, keep writing, you know, that's better than not writing. But if you really want to end your writer's block, you should do something completely unrelated. So this may sound weird, but if I was talking to a writer and they said that they have writer's block, I would recommend martial arts, or becoming a bodybuilder, or getting really into long distance running, or becoming really good at cooking, or becoming really good at building things like handyman skills. Like, that's what I would tell them to do. It would have nothing to do with writing. So there's things that I want to do right now that I'm excited about, but I know that like I need to do those things when I'm older. And so in a way, like the main benefits of being a fighter from like now, like I started a couple years ago, and then I'm going to stop fighting when I'm like 35 probably. The biggest benefits of being a fighter and doing that will be completely unknown to me until I'm older. So when I'm in like my 40s and 50s, then I'll really understand why it's a good thing that I was a fighter. I hope this is making sense. There was a philosopher from back in the day. It was one of the big three. It was either like Aristotle, Plato, or Socrates. I think it was Aristotle, but I'm not sure. But he actually said that he believed that you should get into philosophy when you're like in your 30s, and that doing anything super academic or like mental before that is basically useless, which is hilarious because he's a philosopher. Like that's what his whole, when you hear his name, I think it was Aristotle, I mean, what do you think of, right? So if anyone would be a advocate for philosophy, if anyone would be an advocate for learning about these things, you'd think it would be him. But he actually said, I basically think you should just do physical shit like sports and hunting and be a warrior and go to war and do all that stuff while you're young, and then when you're older, you know, he was like on some like, you should not even learn to read until that point, because like the shit that you're reading is going to mean nothing to you. And this is another thing I've talked about on this channel before, is like, if your consciousness isn't at a certain point in its evolution, then someone can say things to you, and if you're not ready for the information, you won't process it, and they'll sound crazy. So more information being crammed into your head, whether by other people or by you shoving your face into a book or whatever, might not always be the answer. It is good to get information, it is good to learn, but there are no shortcuts, and to evolve as a human, you have to suffer and do the things that are required of you to evolve, and then that can get you to the next level. So maybe a writer has writer block. Well, sitting there and trying to write the book isn't going to do absolutely nothing. But maybe if he became a freaking martial artist and became a fighter and had even like 1 or 2 fights, he would then be transformed, and then he goes back to writing, and wow, these ideas are just coming. This actually happened to me. I started writing again pretty recently, and I grew up writing like fiction, but I stopped at the age of like 15. Went almost a decade without writing, and then as I progressed as a fighter, all of a sudden my writer's block was kind of cured, and all of a sudden I have a lot of ideas just flowing that I want to write about. So one of my favorite quotes of all time is, you cannot think your way into a better way of acting, but you can act your way into a better way of thinking. I'm going to say that again. You cannot think your way into a better way of acting, but you can act your way into a better way of thinking. So what does that mean? The way that you think the state of your mind, your inner condition, whatever you want to call it, it can be changed through actions. So sometimes the actions you take in the physical, they seem very mundane and even pointless or whatever, but sometimes they might be just unblocking things in the mental or the spiritual that you don't really understand. So that's why anyone that's learned about like alchemy, like spiritual alchemy, and like Carl Jung was really into this. So a lot of people don't know this, but Carl Jung, who a lot of his work is similar to like Nietzsche. If you listen to Jordan Peterson, you've heard this a bunch. A lot of their work was grappling with concepts like what's moral and what's immoral, and how do we even know? Well, Carl Jung, who spent his whole life thinking about that, and might be like the smartest person ever, when he was an old man, and after all that, he basically said that alchemy is the way to go. Now, when people hear alchemy, they think of like in history class to tell you, oh, these fucking dumbasses in medieval times, they thought that they could turn lead into gold. That was an analogy for lead being the raw materials that you were basically born with as a human. So things like natural passion and life force, and the things that are basically potential. And some of it is dark, like some of it is like your shadows, your anger, your resentment, you know, your jealousy, your like all that is the lead. And in alchemy, to turn it into gold is a metaphor for transmuting it. It's transmutation, taking it, doing work. So work that usually is in the physical, in the material world. Things you are doing, you're writing things on paper, you're exercising, you're cooking food, whatever. So those things are taking the raw materials that you were born with, your potential, which is messy and chaotic and sometimes dark, like I said. It's taking that and it's forging it into the gold. It's transmuting it into something higher. So you're taking lower aspects of yourself and transmuting it into higher potential. And imagine if every moment was spent. I mean, it's not possible, and you shouldn't really like try to do this because it's not a recipe for happiness necessarily. But imagine if every moment was spent transmuting. Imagine if every moment was a sacrifice. You know, you're taking action to change your way of thinking. You're acting your way into a new way of thinking. Imagine if you spent every moment doing that. It's impossible. Don't beat yourself up that you are a human and you have to like sleep and, you know, take a break sometimes or whatever. But imagine what would happen if you were always trying to turn your lead into gold. Imagine, right? So basically what I'm trying to say with that whole quote of acting your way into a new way of thinking is accept where you are and really immerse yourself in what you're actually doing right now, because the more intention and focus you put into this phase, that is going to determine the fruits of the labor that you will have later on. So say if you started doing martial arts to end your writer's block as an author, well, how good the book is that you end up writing years from now is dependent on how hard you're training in your fighter era, in your warrior arc, or in your bodybuilder era, or in your powerlifter era, or long distance running era, right? The work that you put in there and how much it actually means to you, and how much intentions and energy that you put into every single moment of it, that's what's going to determine what that gold looks like on the other side. And you can take that gold and you can build amazing things. You know, like lead is cool, I guess, but it's just lead. The more energy and focus you put into the transmutation that you're kind of going through right now, that's what will yield results later on. And a lot of the things that you're just simply not capable of right now, like right now you might think, I'm not capable of being a good businessman. You know, like I couldn't run a business right now. Or I'm not capable of being a good spouse right now. Like maybe you're young and you one day want to get married, but you're like, damn, I'm not ready for that. Or you're, you know, whatever it is that you think is important that you want to do before you die, and you know you can't do it right now. All that means is that whatever you are doing right now, whether it's an art or a sport or some job that you're going hard as fuck at, whatever it is that you're trying to make happen right now, if you do it well enough with the right intentions, you will evolve as a human. Your consciousness will evolve, and whatever it is that you try to do after this, running that business or getting married or whatever it is, the next level, it'll come with ease. Like right now, I'm doing something very extreme. I'm an amateur fighter, and I want to have a career one day and do this for a long time, and I'm going to spend a lot of years of my life getting punched in the face, and you know, it is what it is. I want to go as far as I can with it. I have my dreams, I have my goals, but you know what the real value of it is that whatever I quit fighting, whatever I do after this will be easy. Because all that stuff I'm going to do after this, I have the rest of my life to do that, but this is what I'm doing right now, and I can't do this forever. Like, if you're watching this and you're young, like me, realize that a lot of the shit that you can do right now, you cannot do forever. So those things that you wish you could do right now, but you're not really capable, there will be time for that. But you can't do this forever. Like right now, I'm in, essentially, if you want to speak in terms of archetypes, like literary archetypes, I'm in my warrior arc right now. And one day I would like to embody more of a king archetype. But I can't just think that I need to just skip to being a king. Like, I don't deserve to step into that archetype yet. I don't deserve to carry that energy yet. What have I done? Right? But if I go hard enough as a fighter and I leave that legacy, then one day I will naturally wear that archetype of the king energy because I went through my warrior arc. You know, the best kings, they have to be warriors first. So whatever that looks like for you right now, if you're young and you're grinding it out, just realize that you're going to wear the energy, you're going to wear the fruits of that labor later on. So don't be discouraged if it's quiet right now and you're just grinding and it's lonely. It is what it is. And I keep saying, you know, young, like if you're young, listen, dude, there's people that have been homeless until they were like in their 40s, and then they got it together and became a freaking millionaire. So no matter what your age is, like, you're still a human, you're still on earth. If you have free will and you're not using it, like I said in my last video, then that is a mistake. You should be using your free will. You should be squeezing it all out of yourself. So hopefully this was helpful. This is Younger MMA. I'll be back soon. Peace.